Hello and welcome to Women in Tech USA's first annual Women, Water, and Tech Month event. My name is Alexandra Wallach. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Hufford International, as well as Co-Ambassador and Chief Operating Officer of Women in Tech USA. Our organization has a double mission of 1, closing the gender gap, and 2, helping women embrace technology, empowering 5 million women and girls across the globe by 2030, meeting 5 UN Sustainable Development Goals. As part of this mission, we're devoting the month of August to looking at the intersection of water, women, and technology, focusing on a different angle each week of the month. This week, we're focused on how water pollution has greatly affected oceans and freshwater ecosystems, and how we can advance water intelligence to identify the source in real time, alerting the authorities when pollution is released into the sewer systems and in our coastal communities. You'll learn how WaterWomen from Detroit, Israel, and Colorado are leading the advancement of water intelligence and how you can join their efforts. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our panelists for today. Alicia Douglas, founder of 3 startups. Alicia has over 27 years of experience in philanthropy, sustainability, public policy, along with community engagement. Her ability to collaborate with governments, corporations, academia, large foundations, and local communities has provided insight to develop an innovative technology approach to address the global water security crisis. She leads WaterRising, a nonprofit accelerator that facilitates partnerships to design, deploy, and promote credible, real-time technological solutions that can help solve water problems that threaten life on Earth. Her most important role is the mother of 4 daughters and ensuring her daughters, as well as all children, have access to safe, clean water. Zohar Scheinin, co-founder and CRO of Kando, where she is responsible for leading their revenue strategy, end-to-end customer experience, and managing customer success and sales processes. Kando allows cities remotely and continuously to control wastewater quality, save costs, and protect public health by extracting data from the wastewater collection system, analyzing the data, and generating insights for utilities around the world. Gili Elkin is a board member of Kando, Viridics, Genda, Surrey Data, and Taylor Ed. She is also a co-founder and general partner at Israel Colorado Innovation Fund, investing in Israeli B2B AI startups and supporting their scale-up in the US market. Previously, Gili was a managing director at Syntech Bioenergy, a waste-to-energy company located in Colorado. Gili is also an Israeli lawyer, consulted at Ernst & Young, Tel Aviv, and San Francisco, and was the founder and CEO of WordProm.com. She holds an LLB and BA in Law and Business from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and an MBA from the Graduate School of Business, Stanford University. Our event is moderated by Lori Rodriguez, the Chief Digital Officer for Women in Tech, and my counterpart as a co-ambassador with the US chapter. She is also the author of the upcoming book, The Hidden Lives of 20 Women in STEM. And with that, Lori, I will pass it on to you.
Thank you and welcome. And thank you to our panelists as well. Alicia, the first question kind of goes out to you. In this Water Month series, we've talked a lot about access to clean water in the developing world, but actually water is a challenge for everyone on the planet and even here in the US. In some areas, we're suffering from drought or not enough water. In other places, we may be dealing with record flooding. And then we have tragedies like Flint, Michigan. If I'm in the US, why should I care about water? Isn't that just a third world problem?
Lori, actually, it's not a third world problem. The water infrastructure systems in the United States right now have failed, and it is creating more problems each and every day when it comes to our water quality. And as we like to look at the water ecosystem, it is one system. And if there's problems at the source with where the water is actually being drawn from, for us to either have drinking water or for us to be bathing in, it really starts at that point. And due to climate change, we are continuously dealing with a problem where you have storm runoffs during storms, and then you have a combination of sewer overflow that's actually mixing in with our fresh water. So this is becoming a huge problem. And And then you're also having in other areas with where you're having lack, as you were saying, of water, especially that, is out in Colorado and out west and in California. So we really need to be looking at other sources on how we're going to be really treating the overall water quality.
Wow. The sewer runoff is something I see it, and we see the signs on the, by the sewers on the roads, but kind of don't always understand that. What are some of the effects of sewer overflow, or some examples of sewer overflow mixing with fresh water?
Yeah, so especially, for our beaches, we deal with the E. coli factor, and we refer to that as also being something that is affecting the public's health if they are, within that water at the time of, or right after that has happened. So after a storm, if for anybody out there, definitely don't go swimming in the beach with that. But we also have another problem where we have heavy metals, and we have other, water pathogens that have started, impacting, the watershed from a combined, sewer overflow system. And while it may not, be E. coli, heavy metals, or any other things like that are just as impactful, to us.
Yeah. And when you say sewer overflow, is that, like I live on well water and septic. Is it well water and is it septic, or is it from the city overflow as well?
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because septic tanks do create a lot of problems within water pathogens, especially within our freshwater. I mean, a lot of times people don't even realize that they haven't even checked their septic, and it's the last time that they checked it is when they had to do a home inspection. And we've seen a lot of problems with the septics that are leaking into our freshwater ecosystems, as well as into our oceans, ecosystems. It is definitely, a problem. So it's everything that is coming into the water cycle. And at this point, we really do need to be able to put technology to work to be able to see with where those are coming from, and to be able to alert so we can be able to fix the problem.
Yeah, I think that brings us to Zohar. So Kando is a pioneer in applying big data and emerging tech to this wastewater problem to ensure we have safer and healthier environments to live in. Can you tell us a little bit more about what wastewater is, and give us some examples of how the quality of wastewater affects our daily lives?
Yes. So first, let me say thank you so much for inviting me here. It's a great honor for me. Second, I do think the word waste is not doing justice with our goal. Waste is something you can throw away, but that's not the case when we talk about wastewater. The truth is that in Israel, we have need for water, fresh ones, and needs usually helps people to create great ideas. And so in Israel, we reuse almost 80% of wastewater through agriculture. That means that we use wastewater to irrigate the yield, and that will grow around here. So that is the reason we want to see high quality of wastewater. In the US, for example, there are utilities trying to even take it one step further and then to reuse the wastewater into drinking water. There are places that you can drink beer from wastewater. So again, the quality must be super high.
Wow, you're right. The word wastewater and drinking just don't seem to go together.
Right.
When you talk about heavy metals, how can you use technology to identify things like heavy metals, or to make sure that you're thinking of all the things that you would need to think about to take wastewater and make it high quality drinking water? Tell me a little bit more about that technology, because that is a very scary phrase right there.
Yeah. So this is exactly what we came up with the idea of Kando. We are actually implementing our system in the way that you can always measure the quality of the wastewater with very indicative parameters that can just measure the quality, and then you can, jump to conclusions and give insights on what's going on there. So what we're really trying to aim is to give the ability to utilities to understand the quality 24/7. And so if sources trying to discharge things that are not allowed, like metals, we will be able to see that from advance, and to give the ability to the utilities heads up in what's coming towards them. So this is what actually we are trying to implement here in Kando.
Wow, that's very ambitious, and you picked a good name, Kando, because
Yes.
that is very positive, right, for a very challenging problem.
Right.
So Gili, the Israeli Colorado Innovation Fund invests in early stage Israeli companies with artificial intelligence solutions for a number of industries, including water and agriculture. Can you give us some examples of company and projects you fund, especially those related to water intelligence?
Yeah, sure. So indeed, ICI Fund invests in Israeli companies with advanced technologies for the water and agriculture industries, among other industries, and as you mentioned. And before I'm giving 2 examples, I would like, you mentioned the water challenge. And I like to compare water with time. So we have the same amount of time every day, and we often say that we don't have time. So I believe that same goes with water. We have the same amount of water on Earth, but we say we're running out of water. We are not. It's all about water management, same as time management. And Israel, as Zohar just mentioned, has become the leader in water management, mainly due to the use of groundbreaking technologies in the water industry. And Zohar gave you some numbers. I would like just to, if it's okay, to give some more numbers.
Please do.
So 60% of Israel is a desert, and the rest is semi-arid, as I'm sure all of you know. And agriculture markets are very far away, and it is impossible to depend on import of produce. The population of Israel is increasing rapidly, has always been increasing very rapidly, and Israel has no choice but to become water and agriculture independent. And that's talking to the need that Zohar mentioned. So therefore, Israel had to become very innovative in order to desalinate seawater, reuse wastewater, and produce crops with the little water we have. So currently, Israel treats around 95% of its wastewater and uses, as Zohar said, 86% of it for agriculture. Israel uses desalinated seawater to supply up to 85% of the population.
Wow.
Yeah, and approximately 40% of the drinking water in Israel is desalinated water from the Mediterranean Sea. And last thing, a number that I like to mention is that while the total agricultural output rose by 20 times between the 50s and the last decade, I would say, the agricultural water usage rose only by 4 times. And this is mainly due to innovation, and we do have the most advanced technologies for the water sector in Israel. And as you said, it's very, and I'm coming to the answer now, it's very important to fund this kind of innovation, and therefore this is one of the ICI Fund's areas of focus. Now, 2 examples of Israeli water companies that we have funded and supporting and became partners in. One is, of course, the company that Zohar talked about, Kando. And Kando is improving the public health and the environment. That's the goal of everything Kando is doing by enabling cities to control their wastewater quality through the use of artificial intelligence and advanced algorithm. Now it's operating globally in Israel, US, and Europe. And the second, and I can come back to the meaning of the word Kando if you're interested, but the second, maybe it's a good time to pause just from our theme. As a side note, Kando means, it's a Japanese word that means wow, the feeling of excitement when you encounter something of an exceptional value. So that's Kando. It sounds like Kando, but it's Kando.
That's great. I love that. That's it has so many connotations in its original intent in Japanese, as well as, you know, what I hear as an American with that can-do spirit, you know, so that's fantastic.
And we do have this can-do spirit too, so it's both. And the second company I would like to mention that is very connected to that industry too is Viridics. So Viridics is a company that developed an irrigation management platform that allows farmers to save water and increase the crop yield by allowing them to understand exactly what is the availability of water at the root of the plant. And Viridics too, like Kando, is focusing on Israel, US, and Europe, but also on South America. And lastly, I would like just to maybe end with a note that yes, we do look for investment in companies that have technology solutions for the water industry, but we have also a focus in investing in women founders, and we make sure that at least 50% of our portfolio companies have at least one female founder, and it's just a pure business decision. Research has shown that women-led businesses have higher ROI, return on investment. So that's it.
Wow, that was a lot. Oh, and I love the data points that you put in there. It's really eye-opening to understand a lot of what you just said, and the fact that you've grown your agricultural yield, if I'm understanding this correctly, by 20 times, but only your water usage by 4 times. That's, did I get those numbers correct?
Yeah, exactly. And
Wow.
Through not only the use of innovation, but innovation is a big part of our entire water philosophy in Israel. We have, there are many factors that impact the water management in Israel, such as education, government involvement, public awareness, regulation. So these are also factors that impact the water management in Israel, but innovation is a substantial part of this ecosystem.
Apparently it has to be, and you've made strides for a number of decades now. I also love the fact that you mentioned women founders making up 50% of your portfolio, and that it's a business decision. It's not just a nice thing to do or the right thing to do, or you're being altruistic, that you've recognized that when you have a woman founder, your profitability and success rate is higher. So that's a very, you made so many good points. So, you know, Zohar, I'm going to go back to you. Can you dig a little bit deeper into how Kando is leveraging technology, in particular, big data and artificial intelligence to solve the water quality problem, and how that's measurably improving our lives? You know, this is Women in Tech. So, you know, go ahead and dig a little deeper into, you know, the use of artificial intelligence and other technologies in solving this problem.
Yes, sure. So first of all, I have to say that this is a disruptive solution that exceeds our customers' expectations in achieving control over the wastewater quality while lowering costs and driving customers' effort in becoming a data-driven organization. It is, as Gili mentioned, a management tool for utilities that helps them to gain control over the collection system, to better understand the trends, to identify the source of pain, and that to take action to prevent upset in the wastewater treatment plant, for example. The utility is responsible and accountable for a huge, they actually impact our lives. If I can maybe refer it like a collection system is like thinking about how the roads are built. So you think about, the roads that you drive in, everything is related the same way, but underneath, underground. And so it's like a big system of highways and freeways and small roads, everything. So you can think about the roads and think about the underground. This is actually the same. So all the pipes are looking the same, and they have collectors and big lines and then small lines. So everything is down there, and the responsibility is really, it's huge. But you cannot control what you cannot see, and you cannot control what you don't know about. And so you cannot drive with blindfold. In the same way goes to utilities. They are driving the seat, but they are blindfold. So what we actually do is that we give the utilities analyze data, insights, if you want, that helps them to control the collection system, to better drive it, and to understand the trends, understands what's coming towards them, understand what is the source of their pain, and then they can, pinpoint it and change the behavioral of the polluters, if you want. So it's not like one thing that we do at a time. It's like a continuous job that we're doing with them, from implementing our system and going forward with changing everything that we see. And the bottom line is to actually bring a great quality to the wastewater system, to the wastewater treatment plant, for them to use and then to reuse it again. So this is actually how we look at it.
Wow, I
So
love that analogy, because I think, we turn on the tap and we just take it for granted that somebody's been testing that water and making sure that it's drinkable and that it's got its quality. And
Right.
also that I kind of think it comes from one source, right? I pay a water bill to somebody, and I don't, you're helping me to understand that that water is coming to that source that brings it to me through a connected pipeline, and that they're getting their water from someplace, it's getting their water from someplace. And if something goes wrong, you kind of don't know where the root cause of that that problem is. Am I understanding your analogy correctly?
Yeah, you're right. So what we're trying to help the utilities is exactly that, to gain control of their responsibilities areas. And so we can demonstrate to them how, by understanding the behavioral of the wastewater and the trends, how they can change things and not, submit to something that they already know for hundreds of years. They work the same way, and so they're not able to change. No, we think and we see it actually. We have great results in places that we implemented our units and our solution, that things can be changed and we can better the quality. So you don't have to submit to something that is not good for you. You have to seek and find other solutions.
Yeah, I mean, you've also just made this problem expansive, right? And so you may go up, people may hear this and go to the flip side. This problem's too big. There's no way that we can solve it. There's no way that we can know that what the quality of the water is. But I'm going to talk back to you for a second, Alicia. You had, when we talked, you had given me a demonstration of what's going on with the air quality. Can you show that again with, with the Siri, what you've done with air quality? To me, that is a picture of really the end game. So can you
Yeah, no,
give us a
for
little
sure.
demonstration of that?
Yeah, for sure. Hey Siri, what's my air quality? So you know what I need to do, guys? Hold on just a second.
Oh yeah, you've got your.
Hey Siri, what's my air quality?
The air quality is good at 23 right now.
Right, and what's
Hey,
it do if
Siri.
you say water?
What's my water quality?
It looks like you haven't set up any HomeKit accessories. You can connect smart devices like lights, locks, and thermostats in the Home app.
So the system isn't built yet, you guys. And I think that that's one of the things that I think that if we can be able to get air quality in real time and know on how that could affect our day, if we're going to be out for exercising, or even if we're going to be taking our 85-year-old mother or father, to the doctor's office because they may have a lung condition. We can be able to prepare, for them. And unfortunately, right now, we don't even have a system like that built up in our water system. And when the WaterRising Institute set out, we had gone around the world to 16 coastal cities, and we found across the board that there was a significant gap on being able to have that information in real time. And what do we need to be able to do that? And that's really at the center of why the Institute was really created, because we saw that there was a huge gap of just not, like Zohar had said, of people being able to see with what is really, happening versus not being able to see. And so we knew that if we could be able to finally get to that point, then we could really change the way that, people are viewing their water quality and really taking it in and how it's impacting them and the personal connection that they have, with water. And if it's going to the beach and you can't go to the beach and you've got the kids that are screaming and saying, well, what do you mean we can't go in the water? And you're on holiday, of course, that's going to affect you. and you've got to really go, down to the source. And it's like, well, why is this happening, right? And that's one of the things that if you can allow people to see using multiple different aspects of technology, including GIS. I mean, GIS is one of the most intricate pieces of technology that we can be using, in real time, because it's just like our ways that it allows us to be able to visually see with where there's a problem. And that's really what I love about what the team's doing, with Kando, because that is exactly it. It allows for that entire ecosystem within the water cycle to be able to see that we are all contributing, to this problem and really creating a problem for our water quality.
It's just so powerful, right? And it was such a big, hairy, audacious goal to say we're going to check the air quality and be able to tell anywhere you are, just go on to an app and say, what's my air quality? And if we can do it for air, we can do it for water. And then we can also understand the importance of knowing what is my water quality as I go into the hospital or the school or my own backyard or the beach or wherever I'm going. Can I, in this hotel, can I drink the tap water? And think of if we understood that, we can solve the problem and maybe even get rid of a lot of the water bottles that we're carrying around because, we're buying water quality off the shelf when we should be requiring our utilities to make sure that that's what they're providing us in our homes.
Yeah, and Laura, you brought up a really good thing, and I don't want to go into this because this is a whole different thing. But for right now, as a water when you pay your water bill, as you were saying, you're really only paying to move that water. You're only paying it to move it basically, from your house to the water, treatment. And that is another problem, in itself. And so if we were really to take a look at the fact that we're going to the store and we're purchasing, as you see, I do things sustainably, but you're purchasing this off the shelf when you could be getting it from your tap. But the perception that we have is that the water that's coming from our tap, we don't know what the quality of that is. And so I think with what we're on within, I hope our generation is to be able to change that.
Yeah, that's incredible. Gili, going back to you, we talked about the role of data in AI and what that plays in solving this wastewater crisis. But my understanding, it's not just AI. There's a number of technologies that ICA-funded companies bring to the table. Can you tell us more about how cybersecurity and Internet of Things factor into water solutions as well?
Yeah, so in Israel, we apply other areas of innovation in technology to the water industry, such as, and it's not only cyber, and IoT, Internet of Things, covers a very wide spectrum of technologies. So we apply computer vision, geospatial, cybersecurity, data security technologies, and many other kinds of technologies into the water industry. We need to understand that water is a national priority in Israel. And it's a national priority that all of our critical infrastructure, including water, will be secured. And therefore, water and wastewater utilities in Israel deploy several cyber solutions in their organizations. I must add that governments many times fund these projects in very early days of deployments to support and take part of the risk that utilities are taking when they are deploying new technologies. So it's a major part of our water industry, applying cyber technologies. And I would like to add something to the discussion you had before. I think after meeting with hundreds of people from the water industry in the US, I got a strong impression that people from the water industry are ready for a positive change. So they care about the public health and the environment, and now they dare to take risks for positive impact, I would say, on the surroundings. So at Kando, we see water professionals as heroes, exactly like firemen and firewomen who care only about the health and safety of the public and this is the best timing now to dare and do anything that it takes to make this positive change and protect the public. So our job, as we see it, is to put the wastewater quality, going to the air quality up now, as a top priority, exactly like the air quality is now, and support water utilities with their mission to protect the public health and the environment. And if I need to summarize it, our job now is just to help them be heroes. So that's how I view this entire industry right now.
Wow. I mean, that's powerful. We just so much in the US take for granted our water. And again, having grown up and still live on well and septic, I'm a little closer to it. When we lose power, we lose water. So while I'm certainly not anywhere near, some of the water access issues that we've heard earlier in this month, we've been without water for 2 weeks at a time. And when having to fill up bathtubs so that you can flush toilets and things like that, you learn not to take water for granted, although I still do. And I love your phrase, help them be heroes. And it's really encouraging to hear this positive change and that they're ready to take on water quality like air quality. It'd be great to be able to, like Alicia demonstrated, hey Siri, what's my quality. Yes, so the adventure begins. That's fantastic.
Water, yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I want to go back to you, Alicia, this, changing tone just a little bit. You're an MIT data science fellow. Like, I'm curious, as this is Women in Tech, how did that come about? And, why did you decide to become an MIT data science fellow? And what were you doing before? Again, thinking about our audience of women in technology, or women who love to be in technology, but are kind of hesitant on what that next step is.
So Lori, thank you for, recognizing that. And I always say, compared to Gili, I mean, Gili's incredibly smart since she went to Stanford, and I could go on and on her thing. So I mean, when it was kind of funny, I'm like, wait a minute, you guys are going to accept me into this, this MIT, data science fellowship. Have you guys lost your mind? I mean, it's just kind of funny because being a hospitality management, anyways, it was an incredible opportunity to really learn on how we can be able to start taking different data models, because it really is that. And through the Social Progress Index, which is an index that looks at countries' overall social progress as well as environmental progress. And at the time I had another startup, and it was called Passion and Philanthropy. And we were putting together the first subnational index on social progress. And through the Rockefeller Foundation and through the Social Progress Imperative, they had, I was part of this program at MIT. And it was really a credible opportunity. But again, it is all within taking data modeling and applying that either at a micro level, but then taking other components to that in your modeling sets. And I think that was one thing that, I really learned, is that, you can, if you can't measure it, you can't change it. And I think that moving forward with where we're currently at with the Institute is that is one of the things that we continue to say to all of our partners, is that, are you measuring the right things, and what are the outcomes of that? And just as an ROI, meaning a return on your investment, what is the return on your community? And that was the thing that I continued to say, is that we're not measuring what that really is. And in the water, community, we have to start measuring and applying data science to those outcomes with which that we're investing in, that we're needing to make changes in.
Yeah, I like that. What is the return on your community? It's good to see that organizations are starting to embrace that. And with ESGs, there's now a way that investors can hold organizations accountable for that return on community. I think that's a huge shift that's happened that I'm quite pleased to see, right? Because if you can't measure it, you can't change it. But also, if you're not being held accountable by the investment community, in addition to governments and local communities, if it's not a fundamental to your business model, if you will, and in the top line advantage that's something that a measurement like an ESG can bring, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen in reality. So that shift has been very pleasant to see.
Well, it is, but I think the other thing is too, is that it is becoming, and we refer to this all the time, a watershed moment, with where everybody from and you have to look at this through the eyes of innovation, is that, and the IPCC report that just came out last week said that, is that right now we have reached a point with where we have to have systems simultaneously working together. The only way that is ever going to happen is with technology. And so when it comes to entrepreneurs are really great at solving problems and creating innovation, solutions, for that. But then there's another factor. We need investment. Investment is a key factor. And without that investment, we can't protect, nor can we innovate. And right now, the amount of investment that is going into water-related solutions is nowhere near with where it is at in green type infrastructure solutions and solar and everything else. So we need for a shift within portfolio management to shift within water investment. And I'm going to set us up on that because I know that we've got to be cognizant of our time. So that's another piece for Gili.
Yeah, Gili, that's incredible, right? Like when you think of your investment portfolio, I would imagine if people understood the opportunity just in pure dollar profit sense of water, you might see a huge shift in that direction. Or am I being too much of a Pollyanna?
No, I agree. And people are starting to see that now, and a lot of funding is allocated now towards the water industry. It's a new trend in the industry. So people, I think it is related also to the political situation too. So people are now starting to see more funding towards climate technologies. Just to end with a note, because all of you were talking about, we need to see, if we don't have numbers, we can't have a change, and that we need to see return on investment in order to change this, the numbers. So going back to investment in women, because this is a women organization, I would like to say, looking at some numbers, that women-led firms contribute almost 3 trillion to the US economy and create around 23 million jobs. And this is by research that was done by the World Bank. And the most interesting thing, I think, is that the return on investment for private tech companies led by women was 35% higher than the companies then of those of the ROI of companies led by men alone. And that's by a research done by the Kaufman Foundation. So I think if we look at numbers and we would like, and the return on investment, and we would like to have a positive change, there is an area for a change, again, for a pure business decision. And in the water industry, it's the same. So as soon as people will see return on investment from companies that have very unique water technologies, money will start flowing towards these companies, and it started now.
That's fantastic. I'm looking at the time here. We could go on and on for hours. I think there's just the challenges are big, the opportunities big. It's encouraging to see the shift, and as you said, when the ROI starts to show that water tech is a profitable place to invest, it should start flowing, and maybe we're not too far from being able to go, hey Siri, what's my water quality? Any final thoughts before we close it out?
Well, I want to first of all thank everybody for just being on here, and it's always good to see my fellow WaterWomen sisters, especially from Israel, as well as Colorado, and of course you, Lori. I think within that closing, we're going to be the Institute, along with the female quotation, is going to be launching a very bold project called the WaterWomen Project, and we're very excited to be launching this during the International Conference of Policies on Climate Change. And that being said, Gili has been, and Zohar has been helping us with where they had a panel in Israel in 2019, and this really started coming about. Gili, you remember, you hosted this incredible panel of women from around the world, and the importance of being able to close that gender parity gap when it comes to women working in water. So Zohar, if you want to talk about that as well, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in Israel, the needle in terms of women is changing. In Kando example, we have most of our water engineers are women. We have women working as sales directors, customer success managers, software engineers, data science, marketing, all done by women. So I think just to think about what Alicia said and Gili, I think it's the same. We encourage women. We think that women can do everything that men can do. It's not about gender. It's about their highly intelligent, they're hardworking women. They're passionate about changing the world into a better place, like I am, and highly professional in their roles. So I feel instead of just talking about that, you just have to do that and just hire them, and the rest will follow. So this is like my last thing to say about that.
Thank you. And Gili, what is your thoughts as we continue to move forward, and especially the girls, right? We continue to also talk about girls in STEM and the important focus with that. How do you see Girls for Water being also part of that equation with STEM? Because I know you have what, 2 daughters, if I'm not mistaken, and yeah, and a son, right? Okay, good. Okay, I remembered.
2 boys.
2 boys. Okay, I forgot the one other son. Yes, because you're equal as I am, except I have the 4 daughters and you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But
so So as Zohar said, I don't see any difference between gender. I see difference in opportunities that are provided to them. Should come to the again to the awareness of everyone. So if I look at the investment sector, the more women we have in decision-making positions, in VCs, in investment decision positions, the more we're going to see investment in women-led businesses. The more we see investments in women-led businesses, the more that the co-founders, male co-founders, are going to look for female co-founders. The more that they are successful, the more that the younger women are encouraged to go into STEM professionals or classes. So it all starts from the top. It starts also with government grants, and it's all out there now. That's today where we are, and I expect in the future to see an increase in everything that is related both to water technologies and the adoption of water technologies, and both to the successful of women higher success rate, and I expect it to be similar to their rate in the population. So we're coming there. It's going to take time, but we are on the right path.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for, again, this is just the tip of the iceberg for water technology and women in those fields. Jennifer, you want to close us out?
Yes, thank you all. It's been a great discussion. We really appreciate our panelists coming in and talking about such important topics. We appreciate everyone for joining in our discussion today, the power of women and water intelligence. We hope you all have learned something new and are motivated to put it into action. And if you'd like to learn more about the WaterWomen project, please visit WaterRisingInstitute.org. We'll drop those in the chat. Also, it is World Water Week. If you'd like more resources and knowledge from leaders in the water sector, this week is a perfect time to visit. It's worldwaterweek.org, and we'll drop that in the chat as well. For Women in Tech, this wraps up our first annual Women, Water, and Tech Month. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.